Hey everybody, welcome back to another Dice Tower review. My name is Z Garcia.
I'm Chris Yee.
Today we're taking a look at Lofoten here. This is a two-player only game in which we are representing Vikings with our fleets of long ships, sailing around to different locations, loading up goods, delivering those goods to our own warehouses, and ultimately trying to have the most, I think they're power points. The most power points in the game. If you manage to have the most, you are the best of Vikings.
That is what I aim for.
That's what you go for, right. Let's go ahead and take a look at how this works, and we'll be right back with some final thoughts. So here I've got the game set up and ready to begin. The objective of the game is to have the most prestige points, and most of those prestige points are going to come from taking goods and putting them over on your side of these warehouses and controlling those, getting those prestige points. This symbol here standing in for those prestige points. We have our starting setup here with that fleet there, this one here. Some goods in the center. We begin with the start player has 2 coins, the other player has 3, and then a hand of 3 cards that we cannot mix. We can't shuffle those cards, okay? So I'll go ahead and put mine face up right here, assuming that they are in my hand in this order, all right? So that I can show you how this works. So each round has several steps. So step 1 is playing a card. I can play a side card, this one, or I can play the middle card, and depending on which of those 2 things I do, it will behave differently. Then I will go to my draw phase, where I draw a new card added to my hand, and then we refill the market here. Among all those steps, there will also sometimes be loading of goods onto a ship that is next to it, or unloading of goods if that good is over here on this ship facing me, and it can come off the board, and then I take it and I put it over in one of these warehouses. All right, so let's start with my first turn over here. So my options are, I can play one of the outside cards, and if I do so, I'm going to ignore the center of the card. I'm just going to look at the number, and I can move then my fleet, the number, towards that side. If I play this one, it's going to move this way. If I play this one, it'll move that way. And I have 2 options for each of those movements. So let's say I played this card here. I'm going to put it there, and I get to make 2 moves that way. Those moves are going to be either a move in which I take the entire fleet without any rotation and I scoot it over. So that's 1. Or a spin, which is this one, which would be 2 like this. Okay? So that would be my 2 moves. If at any point I am facing a tile that matches the card type that it is pointing at, I immediately load that good there. And so if that had been the arrangement, me playing a 2 where I move and I rotate, would have loaded that up, all right? And then, so that's it for playing a card. If the card I had played was instead the center card, taking this back for a minute here, putting this back and rotating myself over. If I play the center card, what I do instead is I load it. This area has to be empty, the one facing me. I will load it onto this spot, and I get the ability in the center, which is going to allow me to get coins, move this one way or the other. In this case, that's what it lets me do, or rotate it while leaving it where it is. That ability being enhanced by things I have in my warehouses, which right now is nothing, but it would be, I could do more things based on what I have in my warehouses, all right? So that could be my action instead, is just load something in here. And again, like I said, when you do so, you are going to, whenever one is loaded in and then ends up facing that way, you load it, of course, like I said already. And then if it ever, once I'm able to spin this back over to me like this comes off of the ship, the card goes away, and then I get to drop this in one of these warehouses. Now, if the warehouses, if none of them on either side have this type yet, the fish, then I decide where this kind goes. As soon as one of them starts taking fish, then all fish must go there. And then my opponent later on has gold, unloads that gold and puts it there. Well, from now on, every gold I get has to go on my side of this warehouse. And we are competing for these things, all right? Once I'm done, that was step 1, where I play a card, one of the side ones or the center one, and put it here. That card is gone. Then I am going to, step 2, draw a new card. When I do this, I can either push this card into my hand from the right, leaving my hand looking like this, or from the left, leaving my hand looking like this. I cannot put it right in the middle. That is not legal. So perhaps I'll do that, all right? And then for step 3, I replenish the center here. Let's say somehow I had taken those two. I get to see the kinds, but not the values. And then I can look at it and replenish that. So perhaps I'll do that, and I'll do that. And then it is my opponent's turn. Other things I can do. I can spend coins for bonus abilities and actions. So I can spend a single coin to have one additional fleet movement on the same side as the card I played. So since I played I could play a 1, for example, over here. I could spend a coin to make this a 2, where I could scoot over twice, or maybe rotate and then scoot, what have you. I can spend 2 coins to discard my hand and draw 3 new cards. And again, I cannot arrange those however I want. I have to take them in the order I drew them, 1, 2, 3, whatever. And then I can spend 3 coins to take an additional turn after my turn is over. And you can do that however you want to. Anytime you get coins, which is one of the central abilities on some of these cards, by the way, like this one here, gets you coins. And again, the number is based on how many of this kind of thing are in your warehouses. You will take coins from the supply. If you cannot, because you would get more than what's there, you can take them from your opponent in that case. So that is how you get new coins in the game. And you can, again, like I said, spend that to move extra, discard your hand and redraw, or play extra turns. The game is going to be over when you can no longer replenish the center here with tiles. At that point, we finish out the round and we see who the winner is. And again, most of that comes from comparing here these warehouses. So for example, this warehouse here says whoever has stored more merchandise earns 8 prestige points. So if I end up with a total of fish here which equals 5 and my opponent has 2, then I'm going to get those 8 prestige points. Let me go ahead now and talk about a couple of modular things that you can throw into the game, 2 of which are in play right now, and the other one I'll bring onto the screen and show you. So one is the warehouses. There are basic warehouses with the single symbol here, and they all function exactly the same. It is whoever has the most there gets a certain number of victory points, 4, 8, or 6, or 5, or what have you. Okay, these are all the same. So the easiest way to modify the game and add a little pizzazz is by using these warehouses, which have 2 symbols, and they have a little more going on. Like this one, for example, says that for each pair of tiles with different bucklers, which are shown on these tiles, and in the basic game don't really do anything, but various things will score for them, then for every pair of those, you're going to get points. So if I put this here, and I put this here, that right there is going to be 6 points. I have 1 of each. If I do it again, that's another 6 points, right? There's a few other ones that are going to be a little bit different. Like this one is simply each clan earns prestige points equal to the quantity of merchandise stored. So if this is there, I just get 3 points. If I also take this one, well, not that one, but if I put this fish here, now I'm up to 4 points. And so on. So that's the idea. These are going to spice that up. The other thing are these ships can be upgraded. You can, at the end of your turn, you can take any one tile you have and flip it over to the other side. Now it counts as 1 of that type, which is no loss on these. But if you did it to something like that, of course, you're losing quite a bit there. And then you take any one of these ships and flip it over to the other side and upgrade that ship, which gives it a new ability, okay? You are going to not just get an ability, but also score for the number of ships you flipped over. So it would be, I believe it's 1, 3, 6, or 10 victory points, prestige points, for having flipped over 1, 2, 3, or 4 of the long ships, respectively. So flipping these over is going to allow you to load more goods. Make the card that you've put here wild, and allow you to just get... This one makes them wild here. This one gives you some victory points, some prestige points, 3 prestige points there. This one lets you load more goods. This one lets you, when you put a card here in this ship, you can use the power in the center times 4. So it just spices up the things you can do. So that's a module you can throw in, and it's pretty easy. Just flip them over at the cost of flipping over one of these. And then the final one, which is not on the table right now, is appealing to these neighboring Jarls, where you're going to shuffle up these cards. We set aside a couple of them, like this. And then we give each of them a condition, a category, a threshold that you must meet if you want to appeal to them. So perhaps it'll be, the first person to have 3 fish tiles can take this one. The first person to have a total of 6 sheep can take this one. And they will have some ability. So this one says, associate this card to a warehouse. You can store merchandise destined for this warehouse on any order card. So it makes my card for that type of warehouse wild. This one here, whenever you play your middle card, you may place it on the left, right longship without activating the card's effect. So whenever I'm adding a new card to the display, instead of putting it here and doing the ability, I can just put it on the side without the ability if I control that. So these are going to, again, spice up the game a little bit. But, again, that's all optional. The basic game is what I've basically shown you without the long ships flipping over and without the fancy warehouses. So there you go. Hopefully that gives you an idea of what's going on in the game. Let's go ahead and go back up top and give you some final thoughts. All right, so Lofoten here is, of course, as you can already tell, a gorgeously illustrated game with a cool theme, a theme that has Vikings that are, but it isn't violent. It's not centered on Vikings attacking anything. Now, there is a little bit of player interaction with some of the advanced things, as you saw in the overview, but generally speaking, it's an economic game.
Right.
Kind of. It's sort of like, it's a management economic game, and I like that idea. I like a Viking game, or just a game in this sort of, setting, which is not the obvious low-hanging fruit kind of thing. It's like, oh, Vikings, they must be, like, pillaging and raiding.
Must roll dice and attack each other.
Yeah,
steal
right.
each other's stuff.
Right.
Yeah,
so,
none of that.
So I like that, and of course the artwork, like I said, I think is stunning. It's also a 2-player game only, which I really enjoy, and I know you do as well. You play a lot of 2-player games. I like that as well. And it is from a designer that I personally am a big fan of. Designer Deus, one of my top 10 games of all time. Quite a few other games, actually. Black Angel and Solenia and a lot of them. So I was very psyched for this one is what I'm trying to get to here. I was very, very excited about it, and both Chris and I very, very quickly were like, oh, we got to check this out.
Yeah, it's one of those that I kind of jumped into sight unseen is maybe the way to put it. Like, good company, really good designer, great art and presentation. Weber's in Santiago. I think there's another artist, Francisco. I forget his name offhand, but
okay,
it's a great looking package. So I jumped into it without knowing anything about it.
Yeah, Luis Francisco.
There you go. And as we're playing it the first time, I kind of thought, I think I wish that I had known a little bit more what I was getting into.
Mm-hmm.
It's got a unique system of kind of rotating this shipboard around and grabbing goods and then trying to rotate it back so that it points to you.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, oh, okay, that's not what I was expecting from this.
Yeah, it is incredibly mechanical, that idea, And again, this is not the most thematic game ever, and I was not expecting that to be the case. That's fine, I know that this is not going to be much like we already said, roll dice, simulate being a Viking in a real tangible way. That's not what this is going for, and I'm good with that. But this concept of tucking in a card here means preparing a ship to load that kind of thing. I'm not even sure what that means. But then you can move this way or that, or rotate. Eventually when something is facing you comes off, or you load. It's incredibly mechanical. It is, in fact, I think, one of the most mechanical mechanisms I can think of that I've played in games lately. It really is. I mean, we played Woodcraft. And Woodcraft felt more thematic to me than the fleet, the rotating fleet thing just didn't capture the imagination, maybe. Mm-hmm. Doesn't spark any sort of, transcendence to go to this place and enjoy it. It became very quickly about Three clicks is 1, 2, 3, boom, load. So that got lost very quickly, I thought.
This game could have been about being in a factory and these are gears or something,
Yeah.
because I immediately forgot about this great setting and everything, and it just kind of became this little the card play and the mix of that with this rotating board. Yeah, you're right. 100% just mechanical.
That's not to say some of the mechanisms in this game aren't clever, including the wheel thing. It's kind of clever. It's just I find it very, very dry. But the hand management of the 3 cards with the moving one way or moving the other or installing the center one, I thought that was pretty good.
And then you draw new... I like the idea of kind of being able to control, all right, new card comes in from the side or something like that. I'm trying to push this high-value one. It was in the middle, but now I'd really like it on the side. I can push it that way.
Yeah.
That's some good little hand management. Very simple.
Very simple. Yeah. I did like that. I like again, like Chris said, the first time we played with basic game. None of the little modules. And the warehouses were so plain also. And they seemed wildly incongruous. One scores 8 points or 10 if you have the most goods in there. Another one is 3. And so when you are the one who decides what goes in there, you say, okay, well, I just got a fish. There's no fish out there anywhere. I decide where this goes. This is the fish warehouse. You can make that the 10-point or the 3-point. You have no idea how much more fish you're going to get. If you're going to be the one who ends up with it, it's weirdly meaningless if you are playing the basic game. And again, I am stressing that because I think that aspect of the game gets considerably better when you mix in the level 2 warehouses.
I would say straight out the gate, if you're someone who watches the channel regularly, knows our tastes and stuff, you know that when it comes to these little box games, I like a good streamlined, smooth, buttery, silky smooth rule set. Immediately jump to the level 2 warehouses.
Yes.
Because the level 1 ones were painfully boring, unfortunately.
Yeah, they're not good. And they also seems weird that one is worth, again, 10 and one is worth 3. But there's no difference in the amount of frequency of that good, and you can't control when that thing comes up, if you're going to be in a position to grab it or not. It is fully meaningless to decide this is going to be the one worth 10 or 3 or whatever in between. Just doesn't matter. So yes, I agree. Jump to the level 2s. As far as the interest in the game, the other things happening in the game. I like the Viking Jarl, neighboring Jarls that you can try to influence. You put a couple of those out, you give them a victory condition, or I guess a claiming condition. I thought that was interesting. It's like a mid to late game thing, but it does give the middle of the game something interesting to do. And I do find the middle of the game to be a little flabby. The game is not that long, but it manages to be repetitive quickly. So halfway through the game, I am finding myself sort of, thinking, how many times are left? We're almost there, right? So I think having that on the side and something to do does help give you a target, give you something to go for.
It's the most exciting part of the game with the expansion modules. I don't know if it's even the most balanced per se.
I really doubt it. Those are crazy powers sometimes.
Yeah, one. If the first person to get 6 treasure chests this game, steal all of the coins from the other player.
Yeah.
But balanced or not, at least it's the most exciting thing to happen in a game where you're rotating and saying, I get a sheep, and I can rotate it again, and now I have docked that sheep.
Yeah.
Woo.
I agree. It gives you highs and lows, right? You need that in this game. And then the flipping over of the long ships, that's cool. It's a power, a little easy ability to flip over and inject some more victory points, have a new ability. Those are fine. Nothing, too crazy.
And best paired with the level 2 warehouses. Because with the level 1, as soon as you say, I'm not winning 3 points, I can just flip those things over every turn.
And flip over the ships. Yeah. I think the ship one, the long ships, flipping over the long ships, is the worst of the 3 on its own.
Yeah.
You don't want to do that one on its own, because it's too easy to do.
Yeah.
I think we've already kind of danced around the idea that the game is kind of boring. It's not exciting. It's missing highs and lows, which is kind of what I said. For me, that's ultimately was my big issue here. Is this a competently put together game? Absolutely. This is a very well put together game, and I can definitely see some people out there truly enjoying the game if they are not as bothered by the game being really, really dry, incredibly mechanical, if they are not as interested in high highs and low lows, if they're just looking for a smooth, fairly by the numbers experience, weeknight kind of game for two players, maybe this will do it. For me, it's too flat. There's some pizzazz here that's missing. Can't put my finger on what it is. There's something that's not there that I wish was there. You know?
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you on that.
Let's get down to some scores then. For me, I'm going to come down at a 6 on this one. I didn't hate it, like I said. And I think with the extra stuff, it easily went up a point at least. Okay? Once we threw in level 2s, because the first time we played, like I said, was without any of that. And I for one, was definitely thinking, okay, I hope the stuff is better, the extra stuff, because it needs it. And you know what? It is better. You should use those things. But it's still flat and real by the numbers and playing in such a crowded space. 2-player games, there's some heavy hitters in that space.
Yeah.
So this one just does not manage to stand out for me, and I can't quite recommend it to someone who plays a lot of 2-player games, or if the overview I showed you didn't wow you, then I can't really recommend it. So for me, this one gets a 6.
I'm coming right close. I'm giving it a 5.5 because I'm hesitant to even want to play it that much. But I could see myself playing this every once in a while, but I'm throwing all the modules in.
Yes, absolutely.
That basic game would I would not touch that again.
I agree. That basic game is a best of 5.
Right.
For me, I mean.
And I think that pretty much anyone who could handle the basic game can handle the more advanced things. I think that's fine. So yeah, it's charming, and I especially love the art and the look and the production of it. The slotting the cards in and the ships flip. All the stuff works mechanically very well together, production-wise. I just can't recommend the game either. Crowded space, 2-player games. There's some phenomenal ones. There's some really good ones. And unfortunately, this isn't quite in there.
Yeah, I agree. So there you go, folks. That is Lofoten, and that's going to do it for us. My name is Z Garcia.
I'm Chris Yee.
Enjoy some 2-player games, folks. Take care. Goodbye.